With some chelas and tacos, welcome to Mexico, one of the Latin American countries with the most diverse culture and incredible history on the continent. Today, we're going to take a tour of this beautiful country, which will undoubtedly attract our attention with its diverse traditions and, above all, its food. Are you hooked? Then subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video. Let's get started. Located in Central and North America, although geopolitically it's considered a North American country like the US and Canada, the Aztec country has a very enviable geographical position. With a coastline on both the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean, it has the ideal territorial disposition to be a determining factor in the region's trade. As the largest Central American nation and the only Spanish-speaking North American nation, it has a very interesting mix of attributes. Bordered by the United States of America to the north, Belize and Guatemala to the south, the Pacific Ocean to the west, and its famous Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean to the east, it's a geographically blessed nation. Mexico City, its capital, formerly known as EIDF and now known by the abbreviation CDMX, is the second most populous city in Latin America, with 22 million inhabitants, including the metropolitan area, only 400,000 more than Sao Paulo, and the 8th most populous conurbation in the world. It is the country's largest urban center and its capital in all political aspects. CDMX is the political, cultural, tourist, economic, social, academic, and communication center. It's a metropolis with all the letters. It contributed 27% to the country's economic growth last year, and its Human Development Index with a score of 0.817 is the highest at the national level and is considered very high within the framework of the same index. Of the 32 political entities into which Mexico is divided, neither more nor less than 17 have coastlines. But beyond the urban Mexico, there's also the diverse Mexico, with places like the Copper Canyon in the state of Chihuahua. This is the name given to a system of 7 canyons, a geological system that is 4 times wider and twice as deep as the famous Grand Canyon of Colorado in Arizona. The Citlaltépetl volcano, also known as Pico de Orizaba, is the highest point in the country at 5,610 meters above sea level. Mexico's biodiversity is magical. The country is included in the list of 17 megadiverse countries that exist on the planet. With almost 200,000 different species, home to 12% of known biodiversity, the country ranks 4th in the number of amphibians with 376 species, 2nd in mammals with 564 species, and 1st in reptiles with 864 species. At the same time, in an effort to conserve them, Mexico already has 185 protected natural areas, adding terrestrial, marine, and mixed zones covering a total of 90 million hectares. Mexican traditions are full of a culture that is already known throughout the world. It's impossible to talk about them without mentioning the most important and best known. The Day of the Dead. Its cinematic fame precedes the film Coco, where many knew it several years before its release. At the end of 2015, in the opening scene of the film 007 Spectre, in which we see James Bond carrying out a mission in the Aztec capital during the massive celebration of the Day of the Dead in the city. The festival consists of paying homage to deceased acquaintances and loved ones on November 1st and 2nd by placing flowers, candles, and arrangements such as decorated skulls and even food next to their written names and/or photographs. Another very important and world-famous cultural tradition is the Day of the Virgin of Guadalupe, also known as the Virgin Morena, patron saint of the country. This tradition dates back to December 12, 1531. Her basilica, located north of Mexico City on the slopes of Tepeyac Hill, is visited by millions of devotees every year. The procession in her honor is one of the most attended Catholic events in the world, and this year is no exception. As in previous years, the restrictions imposed by the COVID-19 pandemic have reduced attendance. It's also impossible not to mention the National Fair of San Marcos. This is one of the oldest celebrations in Mexico. It is held in the city of Aguascalientes between April and May. Today, it is an ideal scenario for investment, with 90 hectares of different types of companies, gastronomic tastings, and shops. An event of international importance. The independence of Mexico. The celebration on September 15th marked the beginning of the country's independence. According to tradition, the President of the Republic goes out on the balcony of the National Palace and waves the Mexican flag in homage to the heroes of independence in front of the huge crowd gathered in the Zócalo, or Constitution Square. Finally, although it is impossible to mention them all, we must not forget Los Voladores de Papantla, a folkloric dance known all over the world. Although it takes place in several cities in Mexico, the most outstanding is the one that takes place in the city of Veracruz. Although what we know today as Mexico was discovered by Hernán Cortés in February 1519 and was then called New Spain, the truth is that this territory was inhabited by a millennia-old civilization long before the arrival of the Iberian conquerors. In fact, there are records from more than 30,000 years ago. It is divided into the following cultural areas: Oasis America, Arid America, Mesoamerica. Then came the birth of polytheistic civilizations such as the Olmec, Teotihuacan, Mexica, and the Maya, another important civilization that lived thousands of years ago. Also coexisting with the Mayan culture was another important civilization that lived for thousands of years. It inhabited parts of the territories we know today as Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, and the south of Mexico in the states known today as Chiapas, Tabasco, and Guatemala. Chiapas, Tabasco, Yucatan, Campeche, and Quintana Roo. The conquest of Mexico as an armed conflict led by Hernán Cortés began with the Battle of Centla and culminated in the siege of Tenochtitlan on August 13, 1521, with the surrender of the cities Moctezuma and Cuauhtémoc. In 1535, the Viceroyalty of New Spain was created, with the first viceroy being Antonio de Mendoza y Pacheco. 63 viceroys ruled during almost 3 centuries of Spanish rule. This dominance was maintained by the suppression of all indigenous armed uprisings, such as the Chichimeca War, 1546, the Miton War, 1540 to 1551, the Pericles Rebellion, 1734 to 1737, and the Mayan Rebellion of Xisteil, 1761. Until the arrival of Mexico's independence process from September 16, 1810 to September 27, 1821. The most relevant for the country in the following 2 decades was the beginning of the Mexican-American War, beginning May 23 and February 2, 1846, which ended with the surrender and the signing of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, where Mexico lost half of its territory annexed by the United States. The Mexican Revolution, which began on November 20, 1910, was the most important event of the 20th century, resulting in various revolts against the constituted power until reaching the democratic political system that we know today. Since CDMX is the most visited city in the country, it's impossible to talk about Mexican tourism without mentioning the most important and visited icons of the capital. The Angel of Independence, colloquially known as this, but with the official name of Monumento a la Independencia, is a monument in the form of a huge column crowned by a statue of the winged Victory holding a laurel wreath and a broken chain, located in the roundabout of Paseo de la Reforma Avenue. It would be more than 100 years old today, as its construction was completed in 1910, but it was demolished and rebuilt in 1957. Kukulkan Temple, Chichén Itzá, also known as El Castillo. It is by far the most famous pyramid in Mexico. An archaeological structure chosen as one of the 7 wonders of the modern world, located in the state of Yucatan. El Arco de Cabo San Lucas, a rock formation, a natural arch on the beach of the city of Cabo San Lucas, attracts many tourists because every leap year the tide forms the Playa de Amo because you can walk underneath it. Guadalajara, Mexico's second most populous city, is famous for its mariachis and tequila. Many cultural and artistic events take place here every year, and one of the most attractive places for tourists is the imposing cathedral in the city's main square. It's impossible to talk about them all, but a special mention goes to its most beautiful and most visited beaches. Acapulco, its paradisiacal bay between cliffs and mountains. Cancun, with its white sand and turquoise waters on the shore of the Caribbean Sea, is home to the second largest coral reef in the world. The Riviera Maya is a 130-kilometer tourist strip with numerous tourist attractions such as Playa del Carmen, Cozumel, Puerto Morelos, and the Mayan ruins of Tulum. Since 2010, Mexican gastronomy has even been declared an intangible heritage of humanity by UNESCO, making it even more internationalized, respected, and sought after worldwide. In any capital city in the world, there are many Mexican restaurants where you can enjoy any of its dishes. We would like to give you an overview of some of them. Enchiladas, one of the most famous dishes in Mexican cuisine. Enchiladas are corn tortillas filled with minced beef, red beans, cheese, chicken, etc., seasoned with some of the famous Mexican sauces such as green sauce or mole, and topped with onion, cilantro, shredded lettuce, and tomato. Tasting it for the first time is a religious experience. Chapulines. Insects of Mexican gastronomy include grasshoppers that can be found stewed in tacos, pizzas, or simply fried and served with lime. A crunchy source of protein that you can buy in street stalls all over Mexico. Tacos. We could not end with anything other than the most famous of all. Corn tortillas can be stuffed with all kinds of ingredients, and although you must try them all, there are a few that should be a priority. Tacos al pastor, with marinated and vertically grilled kebab-like meat. Arrachera, the name given to the fibrous piece of meat from the calf's diaphragm, is marinated in lime juice, garlic, salt, onion, and pepper, and cooked on the barbecue. Tacos al gobernador, stuffed with prawns, red peppers, onions, and green peppers. According to Mexicans, callejeros taste better than regular tacos. The land of the Aztecs is emblematic from every possible angle. A destination to consider and even a destination to repeat. Another thing to remember is to subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments which place in Mexico would you visit first. I'll see you next time.